Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Moved by Councillor Rolla, second by Councillor Coddick, resolved that the regular meeting commence at the hour of 7 p.m. And be it further resolved that council acknowledges that we are meeting in the Robinson Spirit Treaty area on lands that have been traditionally used by several Indigenous nations, but we would like to pay special recognition to our closest Indigenous neighbors, the community of Bigdagon Nishnawbe and Nemazigamik Nishnawbe First Nations. We wish to recognize the long history of the First Nation and Métis people in our region, specifically, and show respect to them today. All in favor? Carried. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Through the chair, there's one addition to the agenda. Item number 15-03, section 239(2)C. A proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, land disposition.
Okay, thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Okay, approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Coddick, second by Councillor Hudson, resolved that the agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? Carried. Okay, delegations and presentations. Moved by Councillor Hudson, second by Councillor Rolla. Resolved that council has received a presentation from Ken Rata, CEO, Thunder Bay District Social Services Administration Board regarding programs and services in Manitowoc. Welcome, Ken. Glad you could make the journey from Thunder Bay, and you're up.
Happy to be here, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to share a bit of information about what the District of Thunder Bay Social Services Administration Board is and what we do and our ties to the community of Manitowoc. As your council will know, we service the entirety of the District of Thunder Bay. So the information I'm going to share is centered around the entire district, but I do have some information specific regarding Manitowoc as well. So the first slide, and I'll have some assistance in changing, we'll just walk through the agenda, what we're looking to do in terms of highlights. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are and what the DSAP is, the legislation that we operate under and how we were established. And I think the area of interest will be the programs that we deliver. And you can see we do childcare, social assistance, housing and homelessness. And of course, Chair, there'll be time at the end for any questions that you or your council would choose to ask at that time. Okay, so the next slide, we'll just start to get into some of the detail. One more from here, we'll talk about what we do. And when people say, what is the DSAP, what do we do? The typical answer I would share with them is that we work with the most vulnerable populations in communities throughout the district. We provide income assistance for people who have limited income. We provide housing support, homelessness support, and we're the service system manager for childcare and early on service systems. They are services that were once upon a time delivered directly by communities and municipalities. But in 1999, there was an establishment of the DSAP Act, which created universal structures that amalgamated those specific social services into certain geographic areas. District of Thunder Bay is covered by the Thunder Bay DSAP, and we'll get into some of those details in the next coming slides as well. Our mission and vision are shown here for your reference. Basically, what we look to do is provide support services to individuals who are in need of those social services. We do that through a lens of social justice, and we try to improve individuals' ability to be more self-sufficient. So it is a service organization. We do look to individuals' needs and to try to meet those needs to help them become more self-sufficient. The next slide talks a little bit about our structure. We are a corporation, an independent corporation. We have a board of directors. There are 14 directors on that board, and all those directors are appointed by municipalities that make up the District of Thunder Bay. So each of the municipalities are designated either a specific seat or shared seat within the context of an election period cycle. So every 4 years, when there's a municipal election, we get new directors appointed from the member municipalities that are part of our board. We go through a similar election cycle for the area territory without municipal organization, TUMO as an acronym. So we actually hold an election for that position for the 14th member on our board as well. The next slide will actually go through some of what we have and where those seats are. It's a bit of an information heavy slide, but I wanted to share that each of the communities represented have a voice at the table for the DSAP. Where you see numbers associated with communities or groups of communities, that's how many seats are allocated to that grouping. You can see Marathon and Manitowoc have 1 seat. What we refer to that as they share a seat, and as the councils alternate in an election year, the seat will shift from Marathon to Manitowoc to Marathon to Manitowoc. The only differences in those shared seats are in the community of Greenstone. It's more population based, so they have 1 dedicated seat. City of Thunder Bay has 6 dedicated seats because it's the largest community with 14 members. No one municipality has a majority of seats at the table. So that's the geography and the allocation of seats for a board of directors. The next slide shows the same geography and where we have local offices. So we do have an office here in Manitowoc, also at Marathon, Greenstone, Schreiber, Nipigon, in Thunder Bay, and in Quebec to the west of Thunder Bay. So we do have staff in those offices to work directly with community and clients and councils, information needs and presentations as such. As they're requested, we do want to have a community presence, so we look to our teams to have that link to the community and involve our head office as we do. So we'll get into the fun part, which is legislation. Everybody likes talking about legislation. We are governed by several pieces of legislation as a corporation, but the most important of those is the DSAP Act. The DSAP Act was established in 1999, and it encompasses regulatory requirements for the establishment of 10 district social service boards across Northern Ontario. We go from Kenora, Rainy River, Thunder Bay, Algoma, through St. Marie, Cochrane, North Bay, City of Greater Sudbury, Parry Sound, Miskaming. Hoping I hit 10 in there, and if I missed it, we'll cover. It does cover the north, and the delivery of social services programs are the same through each of those DSAPs, although each one is an independent corporation. The next slide will talk about some of the specifics that are required under the Act, including the geographic locations of where they are, the number of seats that a board can have with the DSAP, the types of work that we can do, what we are as an independent corporation, what we're not as a local board or substructure of any one municipality. We do represent the entirety of the district of Thunder Bay. So when it comes time to look at regulatory requirements, the DSAP Act is the guiding piece of legislation that we follow as a DSAP, and our board of directors on orientation or sitting at the table. It's the first piece of legislation that we go through, so they know why we are here, what structure we operate under. The responsibilities that we have are also governed by different legislation. The program areas that we offer are supported through legislation and regulatory requirements from 3 distinct ministries. The Ontario Works Act oversees the requirements of the social assistance programs that we deliver. Child Care and Early Years Act is administered through the Ministry of Education and provides guidance and governance for all of the child care and early years activities. The Housing Services Act guides our housing, direct owned housing requirements. The application for centralized wait lists for access to housing, rent geared to income, and also touches on the homelessness programs that are, I'll say, more recent. They actually started coming into play in the regulations around 2015, where the DSAP Act and the Housing Services Act came in for that. We also are governed by several pieces of administrative work through the courts, the Residential Tenancies Act and Landlord Tenant Board for the direct owned housing properties that the DSAP has, as well as the nonprofit housing provider owned properties that we help fund and support. So when we look at the programs and service breakdown, the allocation of funds that we have for a budget are basically dispersed, as you see through the little Looney diagram on the right-hand side. The way we operate is both as a direct deliverer of service and a funder of service provision through other organizations. We're also a direct provider of administrative support or financial support, to direct individuals. The biggest program we offer that through is the Ontario Works Act, and we provide 47 cents of every dollar that we expend in direct support of individuals, that the income support, housing support, or direct subsidies that help them access different services in the community. 24 cents of every dollar is a transfer fee to organizations that provide support services. Those are included in the childcare provisions that we have, nonprofit housing corporations that we support. We also have a direct operating cost for the housing units that the DSAP owns. That's a portion of it. I always like to say that the smallest component of that little loonie is 6 cents on the dollar, and that's the administrative and overhead costs that the DSAP board and corporation actually have for administrative costs. Chair, through you, I think the next few slides, we're going to get into program specific information. I'm going to start with childcare in early years. People always like to hear about what we're doing in the communities and how that relates to their own either use or what they see in the community. So the childcare in early years programs, we are a service system manager. What that means is we don't directly operate childcare centers or early on programs, but we provide the structure under which the nonprofit corporations that deliver childcare and early on delivery operate with under. We also provide financial support to maintain their operations, and we flow through funding from both the federal and provincial government on the Canada-wide early learning childcare program that we've been hearing a lot about over the last 5 years, and more recently in the news because the agreement between Canada and Ontario is in its final year. They are still negotiating on what the next 5-year term may look like. But until we hear further news, we fully expect that what is currently a $22 a day childcare program would continue on with the goal of reaching $10, which was the federal government's objective. The next slide shows the variety of activities that we deliver as a service system manager. Everything from direct fee subsidy to low-income families so that they can access childcare, the funding and provision of licensed childcare, orientation, professional learning, and recruitment and support for early childhood educators, wage enhancement grants to induce people to come into the system as registered early childhood educators. We provide bursaries through, in our case, Confederation College throughout the Northwest to allow easier access for individuals to join into the registered early childhood education program. Because right now, the biggest hurdle for opening more spaces is human resource based. The more early childhood educators we can get into the system, the more spaces we can open. We're limited a little bit right now on that, although I can suggest in the last 5 to 6 years, we've added about 400 spaces into the system, and we are still continuing to grow the childcare spaces as more educators enter into the field. We also provide specialized support for families and children that need those extra supports as they're going through a childcare program and an early years program that carries right through into the education system. So we've got special needs resource staff in early childhood education programs as well as in school age programs as well. So we support that, fund those experts to participate in the early learning growth of children who require those special supports. So currently in terms of numbers, we have 24 unique service providers. These are all independent corporations. They're all nonprofit corporations. We don't have any for-profit childcare operations under the DSAP portfolio. Those 24 providers operate in 50 different locations. So it would be simple to say each of them has 2 locations, but some have 1, some have 5. But we do look to maximize the impact of the individual nonprofit corporations in the delivery of childcare systems as we can. We have some very successful programs, and we like to invest in the development of those, not only the corporations, but the staff that they have to ensure that the best delivery is carried forward. In the early on centers, which are a little bit distinct from a childcare center, and early on is a drop-in program where again we have early childhood educators and other professionals that will work with parents and their children together to enhance child and parenting interaction, parent development skills, look at early development testing. We also are able to refer to specialized services in the community for early testing of vision and hearing and speech and other programs through the early drop-ins. So there's 21 locations operating throughout the district of Thunder Bay. I did mention last slide the special needs resource program that we provide as well. So that works through all of the centers that we support. Now, specific to Manitouwadge, we do have a child care center here. Manitouwadge Nursery School has I say your 10 licensed spaces serving 12 children. That just means we have a few children that do part-time and then share position space within the center itself. There's also the Brass Bell Family Resource Center that had 27 distinct or unique children participate in the first quarter of programming. 16 parent visits, so in many cases parents can bring more than one child, but the goal is to provide as many services and touch points as we can to parents and families who need access or who just want the socialization opportunity for bringing their children into a safe space for children growth and development. The next program area we're going to talk about is our social assistance program. Primarily, this is Ontario Works, which is a financial support program for individuals who have limited or no income. You have to meet certain thresholds, and these are all guided under the Ontario Works Act. But we do deliver programs directly to support individuals in setting goals for self-sufficiency. These goals can include everything from obtaining GED or grade 12 education standing, support in life skills, support in job readiness training, and ideally through referrals to employment agencies, gainful employment. But the next slide will start to go through a little bit of the legislation and requirements of what Ontario Works is. It is a social assistance program to empower independence and self-sufficiency and self-reliance through an income support program, but also through a support program that sets goals and objectives and has regular requirements for the participation of an individual in receipt of those Ontario Works benefits to work towards the established goals. It doesn't mean everybody's successful in the first time around, or that if somebody is successful and goes out and tries independent living, but is not able to continue on their own, that they can't cycle back to get further support or enhancement as well. The Ontario Works Act is a fairly healthy piece of legislation. There is very little discretion that a service manager like the DSAP can offer within the program. However, the individual established action plans or work plans for the individual can be as unique or creative as need be for that particular individual. So we try to take a very legislated and prescribed program and have it meet the unique needs of every individual that accesses its services. So the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the case loads that we've seen over the last 5 years. The line graph along the top of all of our graphs shows the last full year, 2025. At the end of 2025, district-wide, we had a total of 2,451 cases. What you can tell by the chart is that there has been a steady decrease in the number of cases in Ontario Works throughout the district over a period of years. If we were to go back to 2020, the year COVID first came in, the numbers are way lower than we show here, but that's because there were other federal and provincial support programs that were actually more beneficial to individuals financially. Ontario Works program, but once those ended, those who could continue on and sustain themselves did. Others may have returned back to the Ontario Works program, but the reduced numbers as we go on into a trend does show, hopefully shows that there is some success in the program and people leaving the program have not had a high recidivism or return to the program rate. So and continue to work on success rates of individuals becoming more self-sufficient. Specific to Manitowoc, in the next slide, we have a number of individuals here in the community that we do support. They're part of that 2450. As of May 31st, they don't have the June stats available. We have 36 clients within the community that are in receipt of social assistance support. Our 5-year average is 41 clients. So again, we see that slight decline, but again, a decline nonetheless in cancer participants in the program. And so far in Q1 2026, we've had 6 clients who left the social assistance program to gain employment. I can't tell you if it's in the community or outside of the community, but they have left for gainful employment, which again is the ultimate goal of the program for realizing self-sufficiency for an individual. The next group of slides, we're going to talk a little bit about the housing homelessness program, what it is, where it operates, and some of the services and programs we offer through that. The first slide in this area talks a little bit about the numbers. Earlier in the presentation, I talked about direct owned and nonprofit provided housing that are provided to individuals throughout the district of Thunder Bay. The DSAT itself owns a total of 2,411 housing units. Those are everything from single detached homes to large 200-unit apartment buildings, everything in between. We're not fussy about what a home looks like because everybody needs something and we try to match an individual's needs. They've got a large family, we have 5 and 6 bedroom homes. It's an individual, we have 1 bedroom apartments. So we try to match needs on that. Looking at numbers, we also have 950 community housing units operated through 21 nonprofit housing providers. So similar to our childcare relationship, the provision of housing is also done through independent nonprofit corporations that own their own housing stock. We provide them support, subsidy, and rent geared to income funding to help deliver those programs within their communities. So if you add up the 2,411, 950 community housing units, add in 600 as of last count, and I think these are May numbers, 611 private market rent supplement units that we have in our portfolio. These are contracts and relationships with independent landlords, whether they be larger corporations or somebody renting out their basement, where we actually have a contract with them to utilize that home or that rental space for an individual who requires rent geared to income support. And we provide the subsidy and support and have a relationship with the landlord as well. So we kind of broker the tenancy to mitigate any concerns or issues that may arise. All of that said, that's 3,972 housing units offered in the district of Thunder Bay. It's not enough. I say that because we have just over 1,200 applicants currently on a wait list waiting to access one of those housing units. So although we have a lot of applicants waiting for housing, the average wait time from somebody submitting an application to being offered a housing unit is just under a year. It's a long time when you don't have a place to live, but if we're comparing that to communities across Ontario, anything under a year is considered very quick. It's hard to tell somebody to have a home that's a quick turnaround time. But we also have homelessness supports that we work with individuals to get access to transitional housing while they're on a wait list to access the full rent geared to income supports as well. So in addition to providing housing, most typically under a rent geared to income, and I should have described that, a rent geared to income arrangement doesn't establish a base rent based on what the market bears, but what an individual has as an income. And so if an individual has an income, monthly income of $1,000, our rent geared to income ratio is 30%. So that individual would pay no more than $300 themselves towards the rent of a unit. DSAP through our different funding mechanisms would top up those rents. If it's in our own unit, we would top up to ourselves, but if it's in a private market or a nonprofit housing provider, we provide a subsidy difference to make that housing rent for the landlord make sense for them to be able to offer the support services, pay taxes, update the units, etc. But 30% of an individual's net income is what the rent geared income structure is based on. In our homelessness prevention program, this is a 100% provincially funded program. It just came into play a few years back, 5 years ago. There was a previous program, Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative, that was replaced by a homelessness prevention program. What it does is it gives us opportunities to and a lot of freedom to look at what the needs are in the community, needs are for a specific individual, and look to provide them an immediate shelter. Once the immediate shelter need is met, the next stage is development into a transitional or supportive housing unit. Through that, then we can have access into rent geared community housing programs as well. In the last, it's just over 5 years now, so 5.5 years, we've created 309 transitional and long-term supportive housing units that offer that mid-range support from either an emergency shelter or homeless situation and prior to access into community housing. So it is a focus that the DSAP board has a heavy reliance on the last number of years, utilizing homelessness prevention funding to establish transitional and supportive housing units so that we have a bridge to get people into a self-sufficient unit, but a unit that they can call their own for a long period of time through the development of transitional supports. Specifically in Manitouwadge, when we're looking at housing homelessness, you do have a municipal housing provider here in the community, Manitouwadge Municipal Housing. 76 community housing units are part of that unit. are kind of a part of that corporation. There are 43 individuals or household units that are currently on wait list for housing in Manitowoc. So again, we could use more. More pressures there are, the more immediate the concerns are for establishing greater housing opportunities in the community. As a reference point, in 2026, the annual subsidy to the Municipal Housing Corporation is about 350. The budget is 355,000. I say it that way because if there are higher or lower expenses, then we work with the nonprofit corporation to ensure that the needs are met and that the corporation is itself sustainable. In terms of transitional support, we talked a little bit about getting a connection with homeless individuals or people who may be at risk of homelessness. We do have transitional support outreach worker that works between Scarborough, Terrace Bay, Marathon, and Manitowoc. They have had contact with 3 active clients here in Manitowoc. These are individuals that have approached through our intake systems and said they are either tenuously housed, at risk of being homeless, or homeless currently. And through the tenant support workers, they have opportunities to connect to services, including those transitional housing units. Currently in Manitowoc, we don't have a transitional housing facility available, but we're always looking at opportunities and partnerships to establish where there is need. So that may be something we have to look at here in the future as well. Second last slide I'm going to share with you offers a service system overview for what the housing homelessness structure looks like. And we start at the left-hand side of the image. This takes into consideration individuals who are absolutely homeless. They don't have a place to stay. They're unsheltered. They are not serviced or supported by anything currently. The next stage of transition is to an emergency shelter, transitional housing, supportive housing, community housing, affordable housing, and then finally market housing. The DSAP operates all 6 of those first bars, those first areas of housing. The only thing we don't operate is a market housing component. We do have a few market rent units in some of our properties where the demand for rent guaranteed income isn't there. And so we can offer some market rent units, but everything from absolute homelessness to affordable housing falls under the purview of the DSAP. So it's quite a large system. We have many partners, many supporters, a lot of community organizations, agency, health providers that help us work all of those supports and systems in delivering that housing continuum. So I believe the last slide I wanted to share with you talks about how all members of Manitowoc, the community, in fact, all in the District of Thunderbridge can access information on what TBDSAP is, what we do. We do provide a monthly municipal newsletter following our board meetings. We meet once a month as a board, and then provide all of the reports that have been approved by our board to all the member municipalities, information, presentations, much as you would do on your council. So we want to share the information broadly. We just put out, it's 2 months ago now, put out our 2025 annual report that is on our website and broadcast through social media aspects. We have our own website, tbdsap.ca. If you're looking for anything that relates to the DSAP, it's on there. All of our reports with budgets and presentations, letters of support for advocacy efforts that we put forward in different avenues and different venues. We put news information on there, the community partners we work with. It's I'm going to suggest a very transparent organization. Only matters that are dealt with in closed session are not shared publicly, but everything else that the board does is available on the website. And of course, if you're into it, not so much social media areas. And we have a communications team that looks to provide information through various methods so that no matter how you get your news or your information, hopefully we've touched a certain point that provides that information to you in the way you want to receive it. Chair, I believe that's everything that I wanted to share, but I am absolutely certain that there may be questions that I can go deeper into. So I'm happy to respond to anything that comes your way.
Perfect. Okay, well, I always go to Councillor Hudson first, see if she has any question. And she is also the chair of the Municipal Housing Board. So she may have a question.
Actually, don't have that many because I had a bunch wrote down and your presentation was very thorough and you answered most of them as you went.
Moving on.
Honestly, the only question I have is where is the office here?
Good question.
Our office is in what used to be the old clinic building,
Okay.
Santé Mentourage Health, property. So we share that office with, two different organizations that are in there besides us. But that's where our office is located, physical office, and our staff, shared staff between Marathon and Manitowoc. So I think it's open, hours are posted 2 days a week, and there's always, communication aspect at any time. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
That's it, okay?
Yeah.
Anything, no? Great. Okay, I. I can read my notes now, okay, if an individual, like, I guess over to childcare, an individual wants to start up a, daycare, something like that. Would they go to DSAP for guidance on how to do it and how they could be subsidized and so forth? Would that be their first step?
Through you, Chair, it's not a required first step, but it's the advised first step. We have a team of childcare, call them childcare professionals. They know everything about the legislation, about the act, about the licensing of a childcare program, about the needs requirement in order to establish a new service in a community. And whether one exists or none at this point, there'd be a needs analysis requirement to be done. We can help with all of that. So if an individual has any questions on establishing a childcare program, we can walk them through what the Ministry of Education is going to require, what we would require in terms of relationship, what the funding agreements for the CWEL, the Canada-wide Early Learning Childcare Program require, and it puts the information in a manageable sense for that individual to then start making some decisions. So it is a great first step.
Okay, perfect. Okay, as far as the, I guess the requirement of the wait list of individuals. What is the percentage of, I guess, the waiting list in the city of Thunder Bay versus rural, the rest of the district?
Through you, Chair, it actually varies quite a bit. We have one community that we actually have no wait list in the district of Thunder Bay. So if someone were to come to us today and say, I'm looking for, it's a 1-bedroom apartment building, if they were to say, I'm looking for a home, I need this, we could actually place them almost immediately. When you get to certain communities that have fewer housing resources, the wait list can be a little longer. It's difficult to compare Thunder Bay to the rest of the district just because of the size of the community, the number of opportunities, both with private landlord access and nonprofits as well. But using Manitowoc as an example, it's a little more difficult, or sorry, the percentage applicants in a ratio to housing units available is a little higher in Manitowoc than it would be in some other communities. And that's why I say there's a wait list of 43, I think, individuals that would want access, who apply for access, but just don't have a housing unit yet. So the percentage of available units, or sort of total units in the market, and the demand for them is it's a little higher in Manitowoc than, I'm going to say, even Thunder Bay in terms of the numbers as a percentage.
Percentage-wise.
Yeah, so 5 more units in Manitowoc would have a bigger impact on getting more people off that list than 25 units, say Thunder Bay would. Which is why we're looking all the time at developments throughout the district, because we recognize that there are needs in every community, and we want to make sure that where we have opportunities to put housing into play, that we work our best to do that.
Okay, perfect. We have any questions?
There, that seemed rather easy. No, not that I expected anything difficult. It's just I wanted to make sure with the invitation to attend that I met the council's needs and your community's needs in providing information. But I will leave with you, Chair, and your council, is that should there be any follow-up information requests that you get from the community or have myself, please let me know, and we'll make sure we get the information back to you in a manner that then you can share this with others as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so, okay, and further, that council thanks Ken Ranta and the Thunder Bay District Social Service Administration Board for the presentation. All in favor? Carried. So yes, I want to thank you very much for coming, and I think it was a great eye opener for everybody and hopefully people watching, that how much, Thunder Bay DSAP does for the whole district, but even in Matswash. So,
Thank you,
thank
Chair.
you very much.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Thanks so much, please. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Okay. Adoption of the minutes. Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Conick. Resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held June 10th, 2026 are adopted as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Okay, no petitions, correspondence, reports and committees. Moved by Councillor Conick, seconded by Councillor Hudson, resolved that the minutes of the Thunder Bay District Health Unit Board. Thunder Bay District Health Unit Board of Health. Doesn't make sense. Very good. Meeting held May 20, 2026 be accepted as received. All in favor? Carried. Think that health word in there too many. Right? Just the structure. District Health Unit. It's just weird. This is a typo. Is there another? Yeah, there's no more. Sorry, that was my bad. Okay. Verbal update, I really did not prepare one. You haven't, update? You do not, okay. There you go, we will not bore the people tonight. Okay, over the business. Moved by Councillor Hudson, second by Councillor Rolla. Resolved that council is in receipt of administration report TR 2026-05 submitted by Aaron McGregor, treasurer, regarding the 2026 tax arrears report and recommendations. Welcome here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think his office at a hold button.
Yeah.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you is a report regarding tax arrears and some recent tax sales attempted by the township. On May 28th, the township conducted 8 tax sales. 3 of the tax sales were successful, 5 of the tax sales were unsuccessful. So this report is seeking council's authorization to vest the property should administration deem such action appropriate. What that will look like is the Municipal Act allows the municipality to enter these properties and evaluate whether they're suitable for vesting. So we're looking to explore that and vest if it's in the best interest of the municipality. With respect to other tax arrears, so there are a number of properties that are in 2-year arrears, and attached to the report is a list of those properties. Administration is seeking council's authorization to register tax arrear certificates and proceed with tax sale for properties with 2-year tax arrears. As indicated in the report, tax sales tend to be a last resort type tool for collection of tax arrears. Administration, of course, seeks to make arrangements with taxpayers. The tax collection policy speaks to this principle, that we do extend opportunities as much as possible to residents to make a plan to pay arrears. However, there are plenty of cases where collection is doubtful without the backstop, so to speak, of a tax sale. We also use an external collection agency. Use of an external collection agency is more appropriate when you're not looking at I'll say blood from a stone situation. If there is an ability to pay that we just need somebody to do the legwork to secure that payment, collection agency is a good route. If payment is doubtful due to whatever number of circumstances there might be, again, that blood from a stone type situation, registering a tax arrear certificate allows members of the public to bid and take ownership of the property and pay the arrears in full through that process, which we, again, as I mentioned earlier, we've had success with some of the tax sales they've conducted last several years. As of June 30th, 2026, the total tax arrears balance for accounts with 2+ year arrears is $436,600 across 40 tax accounts. This is a marked improvement from the last report that was brought forward. We have had a lot of very good progress in the area of tax arrears collection. If any council members have any questions, I would be happy to answer them this time.
No? So. The question is just to go like, is that what you're asking, to go ahead and
That's right.
vest those properties, and then from there they go up for public sale?
Right, so through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it's a twofold recommendation here. The first is that administration is authorized to begin the tax sale process for those 40 accounts. Should administration deem appropriate, we will be making a final attempt to make contact and make alternative arrangements. And we may also decide to, instead of starting with the tax sale process, use collection agency action. That does not require council approval under the policy. However, we just want to have the tool available to us if we need to proceed with tax arrears registration. So that's the first part. And then the second part is we're asking for authorization to vest those 5 properties for which we failed on the tax sales. Should administration deem that appropriate after having a chance to take a look at the properties, because there are a number of factors where it may not be in the municipality's best interest to take a property. Examples would be properties that are very serious impaired states. And even in those cases, I mean, there's a lot to consider when looking at vesting and whether it's in the best interest of the municipality. That's probably more of an administrative exercise. To make it short, yes, those are the 2 asks: to have authorization for the 40 new properties, so to speak, in 2-year arrears, and to have authorization to vest those 5 properties associated with failed tax sales.
Okay. Okay, so.
Through the chair, I just want to get the first one clear here. Not the second one, but the first one, 39 properties. So the township is making an attempt in getting a hold of each homeowner, asking for come in and do a repayment plan or whatever they can do. That's step 1. Step 2 would be collection agency. Then step 3 is tax sale. That way.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, that's essentially what most cases look like. It depends on the circumstances, but it always starts with, of course, our standard communications, written communications to the registered address, attempts via phone, for example. So those attempts to make that initial contact and get a repayment agreement, yes, that would be step 1. Step 2, it can be a collection agency. That's an option. It's not necessarily the next step. It depends on the factors at play, right? Again, going back to that idea of depending on the circumstances, collection agency may be a better option. Tax sale may be a better option. It's not necessarily that linear 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it could go. That's correct. Yes, it could be either step 2 or step 3. I mean, they're similar in nature in some ways. I mean, they both, collection agency and tax sale, both tend to spur action. It can represent the township getting serious about arrears, and it can prompt that action to take action and get the account cleared up, right? It just depends on the individual account circumstances. Again, collection agency is probably more favorable when you're not looking at a blood from a stone situation. It's just somebody who's not paying attention to their tax account. But once the collection agency gets involved and starts making the calls, the payments come quite quickly in those types of cases. Then in other cases where some examples might be, there are cases where a resident might pass away and not have anybody to take care of the property. We've seen some tax sales as a result of that kind of a scenario. You can have, I could sit here kind of all day and talk about the different scenarios, but that is one example of where, what's a collection agency going to do? The only action that will yield results for the municipality is put the property up for sale, and then that's how the arrears are recovered. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So basically, for the first step for these 39 people would be to come in and try to get a mutual payment agreement.
That's right. That is always the first step.
Yes,
And second step and third step.
that's correct.
If there are a number of attempts made at communicating with ratepayers before we move to collection agency, or because, I mean, nobody's, the only winner when an account is referred to, well, I guess we do succeed in recovering our arrears, but the collection agency gets their
Percentage.
commission and the ratepayer holds the bag on that. I always try to encourage ratepayers, let's make an arrangement, because I don't wanna see you have the 30% tacked on to your account balance, is essentially how that plays. So we do attempt multiple different ways. There are multiple notices that go out for any type of action like that is taken, and those notices also include references to that action. People should understand, based on the correspondence, that if they don't respond to it, that action will be taken. We do our very best to make sure that people are aware of their options as far as that goes.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions? Okay, so, and further that council authorizes administration to register tax arrears certificates for the recommended properties if administration deems such action appropriate for collection of taxes of tax arrears. And further, that council authorizes administration to vest the properties for which tax sales were unsuccessful conducted on May 28, 2026, if administration deems such action appropriate for collection of tax arrears. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Cottick, second by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that council is in receipt of correspondence from the District of Thunder Bay Social Service Administration Board, DSAP. And further that council endorses the District of Thunder Bay Social Service Administration Board 2026 Associated Municipal of Ontario's Conference Briefing Package. Do you want to speak on that?
Yes, through the chair, every year we receive this briefing package from DSAB for endorsement from council. So this is a briefing package that they present at the annual AMO conference in advocating for the different services or positions that they have. And so this is before council for endorsement.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, all in favor? Carry. Moved by Councillor Arola, seconded by Councillor Cottick. Being a bylaw to appoint a Community Emergency Management Coordinator, CEMC, for the Township of Manitowoc to be read a first and second time. Speak on that or? The report.
I can, through the chair, this bylaw is before council to appoint Fire Chief Scott Tratch into the CEMC designation. He does have the certification and we have no CEMC at the.
Okay. Okay, and furthermore, be read a third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2026-20. All in favor? Carried. Hey, should that was some motions, no? Closed session. Moved by Councillor Cottick, second by Councillor Rolla, whereas section 239(4) of the Municipal Act 2001 SO 2001 C 25 provides that before holding a meeting or part of a meeting that is to be closed to the public, the municipality or local board or committee of either of them shall state by resolution the fact of holding of the closed meeting. and the general nature of the matter to be considered at the closed meeting. Now therefore be it resolved that this meeting is hereby closed to the public as the subject matter being discussed falls under the following sections. Section 239(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and or local board employees, CAO performance review. Section 239(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, which is the Manitowocc Recreation Trails Advisory Committee member appointment. One Northern Trails Ski Club member vacancy. Section 239(2)C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, land disposition. All in favor? Carried.